Trust is one of the most delicate aspects of human relationships. It takes years to build, moments to break, and a lifetime to repair. We often place trust in people with the hope that they will remain consistent, that their words and actions will align, and that they will value the bond just as much as we do. But the harsh reality is that trust is fragile, and people can change at any moment, often without reason. No matter how deeply you believe in someone, there's always the possibility that their priorities, emotions, or circumstances will shift, causing them to act in ways you never expected. We've all experienced moments when we thought someone was trustworthy. Maybe it was a friend, a family member, a mentor, or even a partner, only to later realize that they were not who we thought they were. Sometimes betrayal comes in the form of lies, manipulation, or broken promises. Other times, it's more subtle, like someone distancing themselves from you, or slowly changing in a way that makes you feel like you no longer know them. When trust is broken, it leaves behind wounds that are difficult to heal. You find yourself questioning not only that person, but also your own judgment. You ask yourself how you failed to see the signs, how you could have been so blind to the reality that was right in front of you. What makes trust even more fragile is the unpredictability of human nature. People change, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for no reason at all. Life circumstances, new experiences, external influences, and even internal conflicts can lead someone to act differently than they once did. A person who once valued honesty may suddenly find it easier to lie. Someone who once cared deeply about your well-being may become indifferent overnight. The person who promised to stand by you may walk away when you need them the most. This unpredictability is why blind trust can be dangerous. When you give someone your complete faith without boundaries, you make yourself vulnerable to disappointment. You expect consistency, but humans are rarely consistent. They are shaped by the situations they go through, by the people they meet, by the emotions they feel at any given moment. At any given moment. Sometimes they don't even realize they are changing until the transformation is complete. And by then, the damage has already been done. Many betrayals don't happen because people set out to hurt you intentionally. Often they change because life demands it, or because they discover parts of themselves they never knew existed. Someone who once believed in loyalty may become selfish due to past experiences. A person who once valued your friendship may find themselves influenced by a new group of people who think differently. Even those who genuinely cared about you at one point may reach a stage where they feel disconnected from that past version of themselves. Does this mean you should never trust anyone? Not necessarily. But it does mean you should trust wisely. Instead of giving people your full trust immediately, allow time to test their consistency. Observe their actions over time, not just their words. People will always say what you want to hear, but only their behavior will reveal their true nature. It's also important to understand that trust should not be given freely, but rather earned through actions that prove reliability and sincerity. Most importantly, trust yourself first. Your instincts, your experiences, and your self-awareness are the best tools to navigate the uncertainty of human relationships. When someone betrays your trust, don't let it break you. Let it teach you. Let it strengthen your ability to recognize patterns, to set boundaries, and to prioritize those who have proven their loyalty over time. Trust is fragile, and people can change at any moment. That's a reality we cannot control. But what we can control is how we choose to protect ourselves, how we set our expectations, and how we learn from every experience. People often say that trust is the foundation of every relationship, but what they don't tell you is how easily that foundation can crumble. Trusting someone requires vulnerability, a willingness to believe that the person you are confiding in will not misuse your faith in them. But the reality is, people are unpredictable. No matter how well you think you know someone, they can change in an instant, and sometimes without any warning or reason. This is why relying too much on others, expecting them to always remain the same, can lead to disappointment. The truth is, life is constantly changing, and with it, people change too. One moment, someone can be your closest friend, your biggest supporter, or even the person who promises to stand by your side through everything. And then suddenly, their priorities shift, their emotions evolve, or they meet new people who influence them in ways you never anticipated. Maybe it's a friend who stops reaching out, a partner who loses interest, or a family member who becomes distant. Sometimes the change is subtle, creeping in over time until one day you realize they are no longer the person you once trusted. Other times it happens so suddenly that you are left in shock, wondering what went wrong. One of the hardest things to accept is that people don't always need a reason to change. We expect that if someone betrays us, there must be an explanation. But sometimes there isn't. They may not even fully understand why they feel differently. They just do. And when this happens, it's painful. It's painful. It makes you question everything. Your memories, your moments together, and most of all, yourself. You wonder if you did something wrong, if you could have prevented it, if you were not enough. But the truth is, most of the time, it has nothing to do with you. People change because that is the nature of life. It's not about fairness or logic. It just happens. This is why trusting blindly can be dangerous. When you place your happiness in the hands of others, when you expect them to remain constant, you set yourself up for heartbreak. No matter how close you are to someone, no matter how much history you share, you must always remember that their choices, their emotions, and their loyalty are not things you can control. People will do what they want to do, regardless of what you expect from them. This doesn't mean you should never trust anyone, but it does mean you should be cautious. Instead of giving your trust away too easily, observe. Pay attention to patterns. Watch how people treat others, not just how they treat you. Notice how they behave when things get difficult. Are they consistent? Do they stand by their words? Or do they change the moment it becomes inconvenient for them? Another thing to remember is that trust is not just about believing in others. It's about believing in yourself. Too often, we ignore red flags because we want to see the best in people. We make excuses for their behavior, convincing ourselves that they would never hurt us. And then, when they do, we are left feeling betrayed, not just by them, but by ourselves for allowing it to happen. Learning to trust yourself means recognizing when something feels off. It means listening to your instincts, setting boundaries, and understanding that not everyone deserves access to your heart. When someone changes and breaks your trust, it's easy to become bitter. You might feel the urge to shut everyone out, to never trust again. But instead of letting it harden you, let it teach you. Let it be a lesson in self-preservation, in choosing carefully who you let into your life. The world is full of people who will come and go, some leaving good memories, others leaving scars. You cannot stop people from changing, but you can choose how you respond. Trust wisely, guard your heart, and always remember that the only person who will never leave you, the only person whose actions you can truly rely on, is yourself. Trust is a fragile thing, built over time, but capable of shattering in an instant. When people change without warning, it can feel like the very ground beneath you has shifted. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that no matter how much you trust someone, they can turn into a stranger overnight. It's not always personal. Sometimes it has nothing to do with you at all. People evolve, their circumstances change, their desires shift, and in that process, their priorities realign. What once felt like an unbreakable bond can dissolve into nothing more than a memory, leaving you questioning everything you believe to be true. At some point, everyone experiences the pain of misplaced trust. You open up to someone. You confide in them. You build a connection that feels unshakable. And then, out of nowhere, they change. Maybe they stop responding, start treating you differently, or slowly drift away without an explanation. You replay conversations, search for signs you might have missed, and wonder if you did something wrong. But often, the reality is that people are not obligated to stay the same. They have their own battles, their own journeys, and sometimes their growth takes them in a direction that no longer includes you. One of the most painful realizations is that not everyone values trust the same way you do. For some, loyalty is conditional. They stay as long as it benefits them. But the moment they find something more convenient, they move on without hesitation. These are the people who make promises they have no intention of keeping, who swear they'll always be there, but leave the moment things become difficult. The problem isn't that they changed, it's that you believed they wouldn't. This is where the lesson lies. Not in resenting them for their choices, but in learning to recognize who is truly worth your trust. The truth is, expecting people to remain constant is unrealistic. Life is unpredictable, and people are shaped by their experiences. Someone who once supported you may grow distant because of their own struggles. Someone who once cared deeply may become indifferent because their emotions have shifted. It's not always a betrayal. Sometimes it's just a reflection of life's ever-changing nature. The mistake we make is assuming that everyone we trust will remain as they are forever. But the only thing that's truly permanent is change. So what do you do when someone changes without reason? Do you chase after them, demand explanations, or try to bring things back to how they once were? The answer is no. You accept it. You acknowledge the pain, but you don't let it control you. You understand that people have the right to change, just as you do. Instead of wasting energy on trying to hold on to something that no longer exists, you focus on yourself. You build trust within, knowing that the only person you can truly rely on is yourself. This doesn't mean you should stop trusting altogether. It simply means you should trust with awareness. Instead of blindly believing in someone, observe their actions. Pay attention to consistency. Trust should be earned, not given away freely. It's not about being guarded or shutting people out, but about understanding that not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. Some people come as lessons, teaching you how to discern who is truly loyal and who is only present out of convenience. It's easy to become bitter when trust is broken, but holding on to resentment only hurts you in the end. People will come and go, and their changes are beyond your control. What you can control is how you respond. Instead of dwelling on the disappointment, use it as motivation to strengthen yourself. Let it remind you that your happiness should never depend on someone else's consistency. In the end, trust wisely, but never lose yourself in the process. Trust is a delicate and unpredictable aspect of human relationships. It takes time to build, but can be broken in an instant, often without explanation. One of the hardest truths to accept is that people can change at any moment, sometimes for no apparent reason. The person you once relied on, the one who promised to always be there, may suddenly become distant or act like a stranger. This shift can leave you confused, hurt, and questioning everything. However, understanding that change is inevitable and that trust should be given carefully can save you from unnecessary pain. Life is a series of unpredictable events, and as people navigate their own personal journeys, they grow and evolve in ways that may not always align with your expectations. One day, someone may deeply care about you, but the next, their priorities may shift, causing them to pull away. The mistake we often make is assuming that the way someone treats us today is how they will always treat us. We hold on to the past version of them, expecting them to remain the same, but in reality, change is constant. People change due to personal experiences, new influences, or internal struggles that they may not even express. When someone you trusted changes, it can feel like a betrayal. But not all change is intentional or malicious. Sometimes people outgrow relationships, and that's a part of life. It doesn't always mean they were deceitful from the beginning. It just means their journey has taken them in a different direction. However, some people do change for selfish reasons. They may have once needed you, valued your presence, or relied on your support. But once their circumstances improved, or they found someone else, they no longer saw the need to maintain the same connection. This can be painful, but it's a clear sign that their loyalty was conditional. Recognizing this reality allows you to shift your perspective on trust. Rather than trusting blindly, you learn to trust based on consistency, actions, and genuine care rather than mere words. Actions always reveal the truth, while words can be empty. If someone's behavior starts changing without explanation, take a step back and observe. Are they still making the effort to stay in your life? Or are they pulling away while expecting you to chase after them? Genuine connections don't require constant questioning. It's natural to feel hurt when someone you cared for changes, but instead of holding on to resentment, use it as an opportunity to reflect. Ask yourself, did I expect too much? Was I ignoring signs that they were not as invested as I was? Did I put too much trust in someone who hadn't fully earned it? Learning from these experiences helps you make better choices in the future, ensuring that your trust is placed in people who truly value it. At times, people's sudden change in behavior is not about you at all. They may be dealing with personal struggles, insecurities, or challenges they don't know how to express. Instead of communicating their feelings, they withdraw, change their demeanor, or cut ties completely. While it's important to be understanding, it's equally important to recognize when someone is no longer treating you with the same respect and care. You cannot force someone to stay in your life, and you shouldn't have to. The key to handling these situations is to stay grounded in yourself. When you trust yourself fully, other people's changes don't shake your foundation. You accept that relationships are fluid, and while some people stay, others leave. Instead of fearing change, you embrace it, knowing that it will ultimately bring the right people into your life. And your life. True connections withstand the test of time, while those built on convenience eventually fade. Rather than focusing on why someone changed, focus on how you respond. Do you let their actions make you bitter, or do you use them as motivation to build stronger boundaries? Do you dwell on their absence, or do you appreciate the lessons they left behind? Strength comes from knowing that you can't control others, but you can control your reactions. You don't need to chase people, beg for explanations, or cling to memories of what once was. You simply move forward, trusting that the right people will never leave without a reason. At the end of the day, trusting others is always a risk, but trusting yourself is a necessity. People will change, but as long as you remain true to yourself, their actions won't define your worth or your future. When it comes to trust, we often believe that those closest to us will always remain the same. We assume that their loyalty, kindness, and intentions will never shift. But the reality is that people can change at any time, sometimes without reason or explanation. This unpredictability is what makes trust both valuable and fragile. Many people give their trust freely, only to later find themselves hurt when someone they relied on suddenly becomes a different person. The truth is, trust should never be given blindly. It should be earned and maintained through consistent actions, not just words. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that relationships are static. We expect friendships to remain strong, family bonds to be unbreakable, and romantic partners to always love us the way they once did. But life is constantly changing, and with it, people change too. A friend who was once always there for you may develop new priorities and drift away. A partner who once cherished you may start taking you for granted or lose interest. A family member who always supported you may suddenly stop understanding you. These shifts can feel painful and confusing, but they are a natural part of life. The problem isn't that people change. It's that we expect them not to. We create an image of someone in our minds and hold on to it, even when their actions start to contradict that image. When someone begins to behave differently, we often make excuses, hoping that things will go back to the way they used to be. We might blame ourselves, thinking we did something wrong, or we may try to force the relationship to stay the same. But in doing so, we only set ourselves up for disappointment. Instead of resisting change, we need to accept it and adapt. Trust is not just about believing in others. It's also about believing in ourselves. When someone changes unexpectedly, we must trust our own judgment and instincts. Trust our own judgment. If their actions show that they no longer value us the same way, we need to recognize that and respond accordingly. This doesn't mean we should become cold or untrusting of everyone, but we should be cautious about who we invest our trust in. Not everyone deserves access to our deepest thoughts, emotions, or vulnerabilities. Learning to be selective with our trust is a sign of emotional maturity. Another crucial aspect of trust is understanding that some people were only meant to be in our lives for a season. Just because someone was good to you at one point doesn't mean they will always remain that way. Some relationships serve a purpose and then fade away, and that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that they betrayed you or that they were never genuine. It just means that their role in your life has come to an end. Holding on to past versions of people will only cause pain and disappointment. Instead, we should appreciate the good moments and move forward when necessary. It's also important to recognize the difference between a temporary change and a permanent one. Sometimes, people go through phases where they act differently due to stress, life challenges, or personal struggles. In such cases, it's possible to work through issues and rebuild trust. However, when someone's behavior consistently shows a lack of respect, care, or honesty, that's when it becomes clear that they are no longer the person you once trusted. At that point, walking away is often the best choice, no matter how difficult it may feel. Ultimately, the way to navigate a world where people can change at any moment is to build inner strength. When you trust yourself, your values, your boundaries, and your ability to handle disappointment, you become less affected by others' unpredictable behavior. You stop expecting people to remain the same, and instead, you observe their actions and adjust your trust accordingly. You no longer place your happiness in the hands of others, but rather in your own ability to stay grounded and resilient. Not trusting blindly doesn't mean living in fear or isolation. It means being wise about who you allow into your life and ensuring that trust is mutual, not one-sided. It means letting go of the illusion that people will always stay the same and embracing the reality that some will change for the better while others will drift away. And in the end, it means knowing that no matter what happens, you have the strength to move forward. One of the hardest truths to accept is that no matter how much you trust someone, they can still change at any moment. It doesn't always come with a warning, and it doesn't always make sense. People evolve, their priorities shift, and sometimes, without any explanation, they become distant, indifferent, or even unrecognizable. The painful reality is that trusting someone completely doesn't guarantee they will remain the person you once knew. This realization isn't meant to make us fearful or cynical, but rather to help us navigate relationships with wisdom and emotional strength. Many of us invest deeply in the people around us, believing that the connections we build are unshakable. We believe that if we love someone, support them, and stay loyal, they will do the same in return. But the truth is, human nature is unpredictable. Even the strongest relationships can change due to time, circumstances, or personal growth. The person who once understood you perfectly might suddenly seem like a stranger. The friend who once celebrated your successes might start resenting them. The partner who once promised forever may one day decide to walk away. These changes can feel like betrayal, but they are often just a part of life. The mistake we make is assuming that trust is something permanent. In reality, trust is fluid. It must be continuously nurtured, tested, and sometimes reevaluated. We should never assume that because someone was trustworthy yesterday, they will automatically be the same tomorrow. People face different challenges, meet new influences, and sometimes, without realizing it, become someone different. This is why we need to trust based on actions rather than words. Promises can be empty, but patterns of behavior reveal the truth. It's also important to recognize that people don't always change with bad intentions. Sometimes they outgrow the relationship, find new passions, or experience personal struggles that make them withdraw. While it's painful, it's not always a reflection of something you did wrong. Holding on to resentment or trying to force someone to remain the same will only cause more heartache. Instead, we must learn to accept that change is inevitable and not always within our control. One of the hardest lessons in life is understanding that the only person you can fully trust is yourself. You are the one constant in your own life. While it's natural to seek connections and rely on others, placing all your emotional security in someone else's hands is dangerous. People can change, leave, or let you down. But if you build inner strength and self-reliance, you will never be completely broken by their actions. The key is to maintain a balance, trust others, but never to the point where you lose yourself in the process. When trust is broken, we often feel tempted to change ourselves, to become guarded, distant, or even cold. But the goal isn't to stop trusting entirely. It's to trust wisely. It means being cautious about who you let into your life, observing people's actions over time, and understanding that trust should be earned, not freely given. Not everyone deserves access to your deepest emotions or your loyalty. Some people are meant to be temporary, and learning to let go of them is a sign of strength, not weakness. At the end of the day, life is unpredictable. People will come and go, and not everyone will remain as they once were. But instead of fearing change, we should embrace it with awareness. Should be given carefully, adjusted when necessary, and withdrawn when it is no longer deserved. And above all, we should always trust ourselves first, knowing that no matter what happens, we have the strength to move forward.